Welcome to another edition of Bases and Balls of Guardians broadcaster Jim Rosenhaus with us on WAKR. Well, Rosie, I haven't talked to you since last Saturday night with the White Sox and the Guardians, listening to it live with your and Hammy's call of the brawl of 2023. But let's go to it itself. And I thought you made some really good points during that broadcast. Maybe that's been some frustration, not only from the White Sox, but maybe a little frustration from the Guardian side of things. How did you see that whole thing on Saturday, Rosie?
Well, first off, you didn't know you were getting a WWE segment on your show, did you?
No, I did not.
Yeah, I think it was just some frustration. Look, both teams are not having the season they expected. And especially so the White Sox. I mean, their season has been a real struggle, way under 500 most of the year, and just things happening that are frustrating for them, certainly. And for the Guardians, too. I mean, they have higher expectations than what's happening right now. And yes, mathematically, they're still in the playoff hunt. But I think realistically, it's going to be a major challenge considering their schedule, the way they played, and also, maybe the Twins picking things up a little bit. So, you combo that with playing them 4 games the weekend prior that there was some shenanigans going on, kind of bubbling under the surface. And I think it just all came to the surface on Saturday night in one explosive play at second base that led to more of a boxing match than wrestling, really, which usually you see wrestling in baseball fights and pushing around and shoving, but nobody really throwing punches. But whew, I mean, that escalated quickly, and all of a sudden you had a guy going down, and Jose Ramirez kind of cementing his place as someone who's so well revered on this team.
Jose Ramirez, obviously you've had a chance, words came, and he issued an apology, as a matter of fact, yesterday. Talk about him, because it was very out of character for him to go out there swinging punches, but there was a reason behind his madness. And from what you've been able to pick up in the clubhouse, the apology letter, talk about that side of this story from Jose Ramirez.
Well, and again, Ray, this is the Cleveland side of the story. Nobody from the White Sox has really commented at all on what was transpiring, but I think it's pretty clear Tim Anderson was chirping and just wearing out a couple of the younger Cleveland Guardians players, particularly Gabriel Arias. And I talked to Arias at his locker afterward and the day after, and he said, over in Chicago, I'm running from first to third and keeping an eye on where the infielders were, and he's yelling at me to not look at them. And so it kind of started from there. And then during the game, I think it was the night before, the umpire had to yell into the White Sox dugout to tell Anderson to be quiet because he was just wearing out Arias at first base. So there was that happening there. And I think Jose, what makes him so special to this club, he is the unquestioned leader of this team. And he sees a couple of younger teammates taking some flack from the other team, and he just got tired of it. And turns out there was a close play at second, and he popped up, and I don't know what was said back and forth, but the minute Anderson showed that he wanted to box, Jose dropped him, and end of story. But I think the root of it is it just seemed, listening to Jose, talking to some of the other players involved, he was just tired of younger players getting worn out by another player on the other team.
Jim Rosenhaus with us, Bases and Balls here on WAKR. Well, Rosie, back to baseball. Boy, the 3 kids this week, huh? Back to back. Terrific outings. And I've loved watching all 3 of them. And they're all a little bit different when we're talking about Gavin Williams, Tanner Bibee, and Logan Allen. And boy, some performances there against the Blue Jays.
Absolutely so, Ray. And where would this team be without those 3? I think you and I talked toward the end of spring training, and none of those 5 pitchers who were going to open the season in the starting rotation are a part of it right now for various reasons. 3 injuries, a trade, and a lack of performance. And they're not here. And there's not many teams in baseball that could withstand that. But heading into play last night, the Guardians, I think, were fourth or fifth in overall ERA in all of baseball, which is remarkable considering the turnover they've had in the rotation. And it's a credit to Williams, Bibee, and Allen. They've all been terrific. It's funny, on Wednesday night, Ray, but Allen allowed one run on an early home run, ended up taking the loss. Excellent performance. And you feel bad for him because he follows Williams and Bibee, who are, every time out, there's notes after the game about, that's the first time since Herb scored did this and Louis Tion did that. And Logan Allen just goes out there and keeps his team in the game and allows one run and ends up taking a loss. But, he's pretty good too, I guess is the point. And so between the three of them, they've really saved the season.
They've been fun to watch for sure. Couldn't have happened at a worse time. Josh Naylor going on the disabled list. You trade Rosario, you trade Josh Bell, two guys with some bats to a degree, and then Josh goes down. So it really creates a cavity in that lineup. But what can you tell us about Josh Naylor's injury, Rosie?
It's an oblique, Ray, which those are so fickle and they're hard to gauge because like a hamstring, I think they have ways to know, like when there's a pull or something, that it's getting better and there's steps to take. But, oblique, you just kind of have to lay off and give it time because if you rush it, you could, harm it again. And then that's another 3 to 6 weeks. So he feels great. I think he's chomping at the bit. He wants to get going. But the trainers are like, listen, be careful. We got to go slow with this thing. So there's no timetable yet. So I'm not sure what to tell you past that, but I know he feels good and he wants to get going, but it's just not the best course of action quite yet.
Before I let you go, you got Tampa Bay this week, at a team that's really been hit by injuries as of late as well. They got off to that torrid start at the beginning of the season, but they're still right there. It's a good baseball team we're taking on this weekend.
It really is. And the Friday night matchup with Aaron Savali pitching against his former team is certainly intriguing. But yeah, I feel like forever the Rays have been hard to play. I think that's the best way to describe them. They're hard to play. They pitch well. They do just enough offensively. And earlier this season, they were doing way more than that. They have slowed down. And you're right, injuries have been a big key to that. But they still have a belief that they can make some noise come October. And they'll be a handful this weekend, no question.
Rosie, as always, my friend, thank you for the time. Always enjoy it here on WAKR. We'll do it again next week. Thank you.
You got it, Ray.